Thank you for clicking on the podcast. My name is Brian, and today we're going to talk about my journey so far from being a super shy little kid to where I'm at right now, and then look forward to the future and see what that might bring. This is the Sweno Creative Podcast. I'll be your host, professional photographer and video content creator, Brian Sweno. In this podcast, we will discuss all parts of business, marketing, mindset, creativity, and self-improvement. Sometimes with the help of a special guest to provide some incredible outside perspective. So for any of you who don't know me, my name is Brian Sweno. I'm a professional photographer, video content creator, basically make photo and video for individuals, businesses, and anything in between. I wanted to kind of talk about my journey so far and the things that I've learned about and improving yourself along the way and helping others as you go along. So hopping right into it, I've got a list of little bullet points here. So if you see me looking down, I'm just looking at the bullet points, make sure I don't miss anything because I tend to ramble a little bit. So I'm going to try not to do this as much as possible. So whenever I was a little kid, I was a extremely shy little kid. Whenever I say extremely shy, I mean like we had family reunions and things like that, and I wouldn't even talk to my own family. I had one cousin that I liked to play with, Jed. He was 2 years younger than me, so we were right in the same age range. And that's about it. I would obviously talk to my parents and things like that, but any other extended family even, I was just extremely shy, reserved to myself. I was not an outgoing kid at all. And if any of you know me now, or if any of you see my content or anything like that, you wouldn't think that whatsoever. I spent a lot of time and a lot of years like doing a lot of work in my head and figuring out like what I wanted to do with my life, how I wanted to be in life. And that's some of the things I'm going to get into today. So jumping back to whenever I was 8 years old, I got a guitar for Christmas whenever I was 8. I had always wanted to play guitar, always wanted to do music, involved in some sort of creative something, because that's where my brain was. I was a very to myself kid, but always super creative. I can't draw worth a crap. I could never draw worth a crap, but I always wanted to be creative and do things creatively. So I had an older cousin, his name is Bo, who played guitar, and I always really looked up to him. And he played everything by ear, so he would play a song and he would be able to pick it up and just like figure out the notes and be able to play it on the guitar. So I thought that was like the absolute coolest thing in the world. So I wanted to be like him. So I finally, after lots and lots and lots of convincing, I convinced my parents to get me a guitar for Christmas. They didn't want to at first because when you're 8 years old, most 8-year-olds won't take a guitar seriously, or any instrument for that matter, and spend the time to play it and practice it and all of that. So I kept hounding my parents, kept on about it. My birthday is only a couple days after Christmas, so I told them you could lump it into one big gift. You could make me have a Christmas and birthday gift all in one. I don't care. I just wanted it. So they said, if we get you this guitar, we just don't want it to be sitting around. We don't want it to just be in the corner collecting dust. I remember my mom saying that very vividly a lot, was, I don't want this guitar to sit in the corner and collect dust. So I got the guitar whenever I was 8. I opened it up, extremely excited. It was just a little tiny crappy guitar from Walmart, but it was an actual full-size, adult-sized guitar. And I was pretty small then, still. And I was so excited. I still remember opening. Obviously, I knew what it was. It didn't do a very good job in like masking what it was. So I knew I was getting it. And I just remember the excitement about that. And I could actually start practicing and doing things creatively like I wanted to. I got that. And my parents probably hated that guitar more than anything at first, because instead of letting it sit in the corner and collect dust, I played it every day. All day, every day. I would come home from school, I would go directly to my room, and I would shut the door, practice guitar. I got a little book of tabs, And I would just sit in there all day long, all evening long, and practice. Every time I learn a new chord, anything like that, run out all excited, show my parents, hey, look, I figured this out. And then I started making my own music once I got a couple chords down and could figure them out. Started making my own music, and that's sort of a theme that I've noticed throughout my life, is that I've always wanted to do my own thing. So fast forward a few years, I go from 8 years old, and this continues. I'm obsessed with it. I get really, really good at it in a short amount of time because I spent all my time doing it. That's all I thought about. That's all I did was play guitar. I was also very athletic in school, so all of my time was either devoted to sports or guitar. Sports or guitar. Always doing one of the two of those. So then fast forward to like junior high time, one of my good friends, Max, he moved right down the road from me. So I was like, oh, I can actually have a friend now because we live kind of out in the country. So we convinced our parents to let us hang out all the time, and I ended up helping teach Max how to play the guitar so that we could make a band, because that was the cool thing to do back then. So we make this band. Obviously, we were terrible, but we thought it was the best thing in the world, and back then, it was the best thing in the world. We could have been doing so many other things that were terrible, and the worst thing we did was, play some crappy music. So the music stuff started to get me out of my shell a little bit, and knowing that I had spent that much time practicing and playing guitar and getting good at it, it kind of made me a little bit more bold in going in front of people and playing the guitar, because I knew I had spent so much time doing it, and then I was actually decent at it. And whenever you're a junior high kid and you can actually play guitar well, or do anything really well for that matter, it's not common, especially the creative stuff like that. So you stick out, and people started seeing me as, oh, hey, this guy can actually do this. And it kind of gave me the confidence to kind of come out of my shell a little bit. Also, like internally starting to get to the age of where you want to start getting a girlfriend, or, doing other things that require you to not just be a super shy little all the way to yourself person. So started getting around to that age, still had the band. We all actually kind of morphed that band into another band, and started actually playing some shows in all around the state, or we went to a couple different states and played shows, and everything was really cool. It was a really fun experience, and just having fun with it all along the way. After that kind of happens, I got like very, very into the music side of things, and also psychology. That's something I've always been super interested in. And like the self-awareness and self-improvement aspects of it, like knowing what makes people tick and why they choose to do the things they do, that's something that has fascinated me forever. And especially growing up from being such a shy little kid and going inside of my own head and looking at the things that I did and why I was so nervous to talk to people, why I did the things that I did, why I was so shy, but I found the things that I was comfortable doing and that I had worked and spent so much time practicing on, and that those are the things and areas that I was comfortable in putting myself out there. So then I started to realize if I put my mind to stuff, I can make it happen. If I don't want to be this super shy kid that doesn't talk to anybody, I can really hone in on the things that I'm good at, and then I can lean into those, and those can kind of be the key that unlocks my brain for myself to be able to put myself out there more and become what I wanted to become like, which was a confident person. I could learn about psychology and why people do what they do and why I myself did what I did and thought the way I did. And that's something that has helped me tremendously to know why I think the way I do, why other people think the way they do. Whenever you meet people, why some people are closed off, or reading body language, and like seeing people and knowing intuitively about that person, even if you don't know about them. Psychology is something that I would recommend anyone for any walk of life to learn more about. and especially the self-awareness part of psychology, of knowing your own self. And that's something I had to really learn, and it took a long time, and I made a lot of mistakes along the way. But if there's one specific thing that has helped me more than anything, it is learning more about myself, psychology, what makes humans tick. And that will help you in any form of life. And it drastically changed the way that I viewed myself and others and what I could do, my potential. After high school, we still had the band going, and then things kind of fizzled out after that. After you graduate, people kind of go their separate ways and do their own things. Some people grow up, some people stay. There's no right or wrong thing to do, but people go in their separate directions. So that happened, and after that happened, I kind of had to reassess what I was doing and what life was going to look like going forward. I always wrote my own music, and that was something that was huge for me, and kind of like taking a bit of my head and putting it out into music form. So I still love to do that to this day. But after that, YouTube had become a really big thing. So if I wasn't going to have a band and perform on stage or anything like that anymore, I still wanted to be able to make music and put music out. So I got a camera, one of the little Canon G7X point and shoot camera, like the little tiny one that can fit in your pocket. It's terrible recording quality, but that was my first thing. It was a couple $100, and that was a huge investment at that time. So I made the investment. I want to make some guitar videos for YouTube. So that's what got me interested in cameras, or picking up a camera for the first time, was wanting to make YouTube videos about guitar or guitar covers, or writing my own music and making little playthrough videos or music videos or whatever. One of the guys I went to school with, who was a year older than me in school, his name's Drew Bishop, and I will be having him on the podcast in a couple weeks to talk about all the details of what happened. He's got a really cool story also, and things that he's accomplished in his life. So I'll be having him on the podcast here in a couple weeks. He saw my videos that I was making, and even though they were like absolutely terrible back then, I was still the only guy really in this area that was making videos and thinking in the YouTube world. So Drew reached out to me, and he was doing bodybuilding, and he had done quite a few bodybuilding competitions, and he was doing the Missouri State competition coming up in a few weeks. He asked if I would be interested in coming to film their one time a week of their prep and leading up to competing at the Missouri State bodybuilding competition. I thought that was a crazy good idea. I'd never really thought about filming videos for other people or doing anything like that. I just got it for the sole purpose of making those little music things for YouTube. So I thought that was awesome. It would be a cool opportunity to meet with another person who's clearly dedicated to what they're doing, their craft that they're working on. And so I started doing that for, I think, 8 or 9 weeks that first year. I documented every week, go over to their house, and while they're getting ready with their training, how they're eating, all of that stuff, just putting it together and working in my head about the story to go along with this, and like how to put things together, how to edit. And that kind of made me see things in a different way than I ever thought before, where I always had that sort of creative aspect to what I was doing, but being able to make a video for someone else and show them a side of their selves that they'd never seen before or never had the opportunity to see, because seeing yourself on camera or having someone else look into your life, and especially behind the curtain of like bodybuilding and what goes into all of that, it's just something that's really cool. So I did that, and it made me realize very quickly that I really like to do this. And being able to recognize that those little light bulbs and bells were going off in my head, and knowing that even though the videos were shit, I really liked to do it. And I knew that if I could elevate my knowledge on how to do it better, then I would get even better. And if I could upgrade my equipment, I could get even better and start to push things in that direction. So I had this realization that I really like to do this, and not even just the music side of things, still really like to do that, but also just the fact of making videos for other people and telling stories that way. So I embarked on the mission of upgrading my little tiny point and shoot camera. So I had to save up for that, did it, bought a Sony a6500, which is a pretty entry-level Sony camera, but still way better quality, a huge jump up from where I was at in terms of camera quality. So the first week that I got that camera, I think I had it for about 3 days, and one of my best friends, Robert, was getting married. So I said, hey, I really want to start doing this, making videos for people. Would you let me film your wedding? And he said yes. My camera came a couple days before his wedding. Everything was on auto. I went and filmed his wedding. I clearly wasn't my best work ever, but at that point it was. Just seeing the increased video quality, and I could film in 4K. I could film slow-mo stuff. I could do all of the tricks. Whenever you first get a camera, you first start doing stuff, you completely overdo it. You completely oversaturate, over color grade, all of the stuff. But I did it, and I made something that they still look back on to this day. And me looking back on it, it's absolutely terrible. I clearly have come a long ways from that, but still, I was able to make a decent thing for them to be able to look back on, and they were super happy with it. So there, another little light bulb went off. So I had to look back at what I was doing, how I was doing it. The camera can no longer be an excuse for why my stuff isn't as good as I want it to be. So the way I work is I dove down super deep into the YouTube university, I guess, for lack of a better term, of learning every possible thing I could about cameras, lenses, lighting, all of the things about all of the things. One thing about me that can either be a good thing or a bad thing sometimes is that whenever I get into something, I get into it super heavily. In this regard, it became something that was good, and I already knew that I liked it, and already knew that I wanted to try to do this, and went down that rabbit hole. And so I spent the next about 2 years just filming things. I got that Sony camera, so I started recognizing that I could take some photos also, and they were pretty decent with that. So I started dabbling in the photography stuff. So I went from that wedding with my friend Robert, the very first thing I ever made with that camera. I put it out, and from that, I had several other people ask me about filming their weddings. So I thought, okay, if I'm going to do this, then I need to really, really do this. So as I'm going on this sort of knowledge binge about learning everything about everything, I'm taking on little things from other people. That wedding that I did and the videos I did for Drew, those started picking up a lot of traction from other people seeing them around our area and wanting more of that from me. I also started dabbling in the photography side of things. Now that having a camera that could take decent photos and video, I started dabbling in that realm too, because if I'm going to have a camera that can do both, why would I not learn to do both? And constantly getting better at a very rapid pace, because I'm spending all of my time practicing it. Every single day I was doing this. I had a full-time factory job, and I was doing this every day I got off work. I was doing this. I was shooting stuff. I was shooting photos or shooting little videos, shooting photo or video of my kids or other people's kids or weddings or anything I could possibly get my hands on to learn and make a little bit of money while learning was the absolute best thing, while also having that full-time job. Fast forward 2 years into this, and I've come a long way. I've upgraded my camera once again and bought a second camera. I am actually making some money doing this, and people are starting to notice around my area. I live in a pretty small town, pretty small surroundings, so once things start getting out, it starts getting out pretty quickly, and I kind of started to become the go-to guy for anything video related for sure. And also then photography. I started really elevating what I can do in that realm as well. So I started actually being able to make some money doing this. And then the wheels start turning for me of, is it possible for me to actually make a living doing this? I've always wanted to do things on my own. I've always wanted to have my own business or do something in the creative field for a long time. I thought I was going to play music for a living or record music for a living. That's another thing I got into very, very heavily. Wanted to become either a musician or a music producer for a long time. Just looking at everyone else and what is possible, especially in a smaller, more rural area, and seeing what you can make money at. Music is not super high on that list of things you can actually make a living doing, whereas everyone needs photography or video stuff. If you own a business, you need photo and video. If you are getting married, you need photo or video or both. If you're graduating high school, you need senior photos. If you just had a baby, you need newborn photos. There's all these little things that you can do with a camera, whereas with music, you either play something someone likes or you make nothing. So I went full on into this. The main thing I focused on was trying to get people to hear about me or see my work through other people. Because if you are recommended something or some service or a person from someone you actually trust and know or family member, I think it's around 70 to 80% more likely that you will use that person or book them for their service. So I made it my mission to not only be really good at what I was doing, be really good to people who hired me to do things for them, but also go above and beyond in the whole aspect of everything, the end result, the experience of the photo shoot or the video shoot, or like just having a very good time with people. So then you give people absolutely no reason not to recommend you and be super excited to recommend you to the other people because they had a great time. You gave them a really good end result. They are more than happy to recommend you to everyone they know because they know they will have a good time with you and they'll get a good result out of it. So fast forward another year and I just keep elevating what I'm doing, really leaning into trying to make more money with it and also branch out and do other things because there's only so much that you can do within the take family photos sort of realm. So I started looking more into building businesses and marketing and all of that stuff. It's super fascinating to me and still is. That's why I wanted to do this podcast, to be able to talk to other business owners about all of those aspects of that. So that's still a thing to this day. I had a guy reach out at the end of the year, that year, and his name was Ramsey. And I knew he was a local real estate agent. I honestly never really thought about getting into the real estate industry or having any part of that. But I took a meeting with him and we sat down. He showed me some things he wanted to do. It was all very different than what I thought of whenever I thought of real estate marketing, which was refreshing to see. And seeing someone else who was kind of on the come up of what they're doing, he was only like 2 years into doing his business. He thought differently than the rest of the real estate agents. And he wanted to push the envelope, ideas and try things or video marketing and do that. So we kind of made this decision that we would partner together, and instead of him being a client of mine and me producing a video for him, I would produce the video for him and we would have a lot of fun with it. We would show off both of our skills in this and be creative with it so that even if people weren't looking to buy a house or sell a house, they would still be interested in watching the video. So we made a lot of those. We made the first one. It went over very well. We had a lot of fun doing it. So we kind of made that a reoccurring thing. Instead of Ramsey putting the video out as, oh, hey, look, this is my marketing for this, he would put the video out as, hey, I teamed up with Brian on this and we made this thing, and put it out that way. So his business was growing, and at the same time, he was using his circle to expand my circle. and I was posting the videos and telling about the back end process of how we made these videos and how me and Ramsey worked together to make these videos. And so I would introduce his circle to my circle, so both of our circles were expanding. That's one of the things that me and him realized from the very beginning was, if we can help each other, if we can not just, hey, I'm going to hire you for this service, but we can partner and make something cool together, and then both of us are equally as excited to put it out. He's getting to sell the house and all of that. He's paying me to make this video, but we are also, both of us are helping each other grow our businesses individually and side by side. And over that next year, both me and him saw a massive jump in just the overall awareness, and also both of our businesses just turned up in a very, very good way. So I started to really see through that there was a massive value to what I was doing, and to also partnering with someone else who is in the same mindset of doing things in a new, creative way. Then we had the proof also that this sort of a thing was going to work, and it would work in any industry. If it could work with real estate, as boring as real estate is, then it would work anywhere. So I started to really see the value where I already was very aware of the video marketing side of things and how that benefits businesses and people. But I started to really see the value of how it can scale up and become something that I could actually do for a living. And I was getting very close. I had the full-time factory job still, and I was doing this on the side, wanting the whole time to make it the full-time thing. And I was getting very close to making that happen. I was getting very close to surpassing my income from the factory job, only being able to do this on the weekends. So as I'm going through and really starting to see the value in what I'm doing and the potential for the increased value, get to a place where I get it stuck in my head that I am going to do this full time. So as we've learned, whenever I really set my sights on something, that's what I really want to do. So I do basically whatever I can to make that happen. I knew it was going to be a hard little bit. I was already getting very poor sleep. At the factory job, I had to get up at 5 o'clock in the morning. We were working a ton of overtime. The typical, what you would expect when you work at a factory sort of situation, that is exactly what it was. It was overworked, super long hours. We were working like 50 to 60 hours per week, every single week for like 2 years. And I was getting to the point where I was doing this on the side. It was becoming really, really good. I was getting close to the amount of money that I was making at the factory. And I got to the point where I made the decision that I'm really going for it. I know it's going to suck, but I'm really going to push myself as hard as I possibly can to make this happen. And the next year, I made it happen. Getting no sleep. I would stay up till 1 or 2 in the morning and have to be to work by 5 or 6. And I don't recommend that at all for anybody, but I knew that it was going to be a short amount of time of really that sort of suffering feeling, putting the time in, putting the effort in, and just draining myself completely dry of any energy, and it would pay off. If I have to bet on anything, I would bet on myself. And because I know that I'm not going to let myself down, I also know that I would do whatever I possibly could to make something happen if I really want it to happen. So I did that. And over the next year, I made more money than I did at my factory job. I had enough evidence for myself. I'm sure that I could have jumped off and done this full time before then, but we've got 3 kids together. I needed for myself and for my family to play it the safe route and make sure that things were going to be stable. I had it in my head that this was going to happen. And the year 2020 comes up. Obviously, it's kind of a crazy year for everyone. I'd been trying so hard to grow everything I was doing and succeeding at it and getting to the point where I knew that I was going to jump off and do it full time. I just didn't know when yet. 2020 year starts before all the crazy nonsense with the virus. We get into February and all of a sudden I lost my mom. Completely out of nowhere. No warning, no preparation, no knowledge of it. Just something terrible happens and I lost my mom. I was very close to my mom, and then just out of nowhere to lose someone like that in your life that has always been there, always helped, always pushed you to do better. That was a hard time. A very, very hard time. That happened with my mom in mid-February. And so my personal whole entire world was like coming down, crashing. You can't even describe the feeling of things like that to anybody who hasn't been through it. And even if you have been through it, you haven't been in the exact same circumstances. It was by far the absolute worst point in my life. And not even a couple weeks later is when all the COVID stuff happens, and the whole entire world, the outside world, while my internal world was going crazy and crashing, and lost my mom right after that. 2 or 3 weeks later is whenever the whole world itself started shutting down. And that was just an crazy, insane time. I've always considered myself a very mentally strong person, due a lot in part to the psychology, self-awareness, self-improvement stuff. I've always very much been inside of my own head and like improved myself to be a very strong-minded person. And for that next few months, it was a struggle. And saying that it's a struggle was putting it lightly. The job that I had laid everyone off. I couldn't really be doing the business because everything was shut down. So no one was doing anything. I was in a mental hole and didn't know how I was going to get out of it. That happened it was a while, probably 6 months, where it got to a real dark point. And I remember vividly, it was 2 something in the morning, and I was standing inside the kitchen at my house, and my fiance came in, and I just completely broke down. Like completely, totally shut off emotionally. All of the things that you don't want to think or happen, I was feeling it. The absolute lowest that you can possibly feel. And that was the rock bottom for me. At that point, I realized what I was thinking, how I was thinking it. Obviously, why I was thinking it was pretty clear. And I knew that there was nothing else I could do other than using that pain to better myself and push myself in a new direction that I had always wanted to happen. I had spent all this time and all this effort trying to build up this business with my kids, seeing them and showing them what's possible, that has always been one of the major factors in why I push myself the way I do, is being able to be an example for them and show them what is possible if you actually put your mind to something. And even if it's not likely, if the odds are not in your favor, it's still possible if you really try and really put everything into it. So that's what I did. I took that pain that I was feeling. I took that low part of my life, and I let it start a metaphorical fire under my ass. Just didn't turn back. I made the choice that night that I was going to do what I wanted to do with my life. And that included not having to wake up and go to a factory job anymore. I didn't want to do that. I wanted to make my life. I wanted to make my life what I wanted to make it. And I made that choice that night. Within 6 months after that, even with the COVID stuff, even with all of the whole world going crazy, I made more money that year and pushed myself so hard that by March of the next year, 2021, I made the decision I was leaving to do this full time. One of the absolute best days of my life was the first day waking up, being self-employed, being able to not have to go to a place that I didn't want to be, to do things I didn't want to do, and put my dream on the side while working for someone else. The first day that I woke up as a full-time creative, one of the best days that I've ever had. If there's any silver lining that can come out of such a shitty situation like that, it's the fact that it allowed me to get to a place where I had no other choice but to use it as a fuel. My mindset kind of shifted to where, as hard as it is to think about, I could not wake up tomorrow. I could pull out of the studio today and I could get in a car wreck and I could be gone. Anything can happen to anyone at any time. And I made that decision that I am not going to live my life for someone else. I'm going to live my life for me. I'm going to do what I want to do, and I'm going to do it to my best ability, and I'm going to make what I want happen. Because if you're going through your life and you're hating every second of it, or any second of it, what is the point? What is the point of doing what you're doing? So if there is any one silver lining that came out of losing my mom, it was that it gave me the mental toughness that I knew my worst fear had just happened. And I not only overcame that lowest point, but I used it as fuel. And if I was able to overcome my worst fear, then I was able to overcome anything. I used that. 6 months later, I left my job. I went to do this full time in March of 2021. And right around that same time, that real estate guy that I had done a lot of work with, became really good friends with, he was leaving the brokerage he was with to go to an online brokerage. And so that means he was essentially by himself, like almost starting a new business. If you haven't seen the last podcast we did, it was with Ramsey, and we talked about all of that stuff, so go watch that one after this one. He had the idea of opening an office, and he came up with an idea of, hey, let's open this real estate office, and I'll do my real estate stuff out of the front end, and hey, in the back end, we can make some little studio area for you. This is whenever I had just put in my notice that I was leaving my job. All the effort I'd put in, at that point, I was just like, no, I'm going to do one huge life change at a time. It's a great idea. I love it, but I don't even know what it feels like to work from home. I've never not had a job since I could drive. There's no blueprint for working by yourself or working from home, having your own business. There is no one thing that you can look to and say, okay, this is exactly how to do this. There are tips, there's tricks, there's guidelines, there's things that can help you. There's people that's done it that you can look to, but there's no one who is you, who has your business, who thinks like you do. All of those things. So it took me a few months to really get into the swing of things and find my groove, essentially. That whole year just kind of skyrocketed everything. And a few months later, I had a meeting with Ramsey, and we sat down and talked about this some more. So we went down that rabbit hole talking about opening up a space for creativity and having a studio spot in the back and having an open area where other people could come in and do co-working or networking or have fun or hang out or have meetings or do all of this. We talked about all of this. We made the decision to move forward with that. And Ramsey had an idea of a spot, and we went and looked at it. And I'm going to make a whole separate video about this on my YouTube channel, but the aspect of finding the building we wanted and then going all in, and then it took forever for them to do it. It took forever for the contractor to get done building out the building. It took over a year and a half. The whole entire time we are, obviously not ideal. We would have much rather have just had it done quickly. But what that allowed us to do was to talk over all these things and have another year and a half worth of growth in his business and in my business and as friends and as partners working towards a thing. It gave us all this time to really hone in what we wanted to do, what we really thought would be good, and also just grow as people. And now we're here. I am in that space right now. This is the studio part. And right over here, there's a window, and there is the big open area with all of the desks and the chairs and the living room part and all of the things that we had talked about so extensively and planned about and dreamt up. We've made it a reality, and it's here, and it's about to be open, and we're going to open this to the public and be able to be the place where other people can come to with their creative ideas. We can be sort of the hub of the creative hive mind in this whole area. It's allowing me the opportunity to be able to put out content. I've always wanted to start a podcast. I've always wanted to do YouTube. All of the things that got me started in picking up a camera was YouTube, wanting to make YouTube videos. So to bring that full circle now, and I have a studio, I have a podcast, I have a YouTube channel, I am consistently putting out YouTube videos, helping people, talking to people. Also, my business has quadrupled in every year over year. I just went all in. One piece of advice that I could give or felt like at this point I could give, it's that belief in yourself and really going all in on yourself is the absolute best things that I've done. If you do that and really focus on yourself and not copying other people, not trying to take something from someone, not trying to take from someone else's pile to add to yours, there's nothing that is in the way between you and what you want to do. A lot of people spend their whole entire life dreaming about what they want to do, when they have every opportunity to go get it. They don't take the chance. They don't go all in on what they want to do. And a lot of things won't work out until you go all in. You tell yourself, tell your family, it's going to be a really tough couple years, but it will be worth it. And it will. But there's not many people that have that level of confidence in themselves that they're willing to bet everything that they can do it. I wish that more people got the chance to feel the feeling of waking up on that first day that you don't have to go to the job that you don't like. I really wish more people got to feel that. They got to feel the feeling of surpassing the first year of successfully having their own business, doing what they want to do, doing things the way that they want to do them, being able to spend more time with their kids, having a little more freedom, and also making more money while also being happier, living, doing the things that you want to do. It is a possibility. It is a possibility because I'm living proof of it. That is what I want to show. That is what I want to do, is be the example that my kids can watch, other people can watch, other creatives can watch and take some inspiration off of. If I can help anyone else, get to the point of having that feeling, saying goodbye to that crappy job, to do what they want to do for a living, that is where it's at. This year, 2023, I am doubling, tripling down on the personal brand aspect of things as far as putting out content and putting myself out there. Because of me putting myself out there, telling what I've done, sharing how I do things, even the ideas of why I do things, or the mindset of what I've shifted in my head to be able to do what I want to do. Just putting myself out there more in that regard. If that can help someone, it's all worth it. All the time and all the energy and all the effort and coming up to the studio at night, setting up all these lights, setting up this camera, talking for over an hour, all of it is worth it if someone gets that feeling. There's a ton of benefit to helping people for the sake of helping people. For the future, for 2023 and beyond, it's scaling the business, it's opening up this space, having this studio, helping other people, hopefully teaching some classes. I really genuinely have the feeling that I'm just getting started. Like I'm just getting my footing underneath me, and I've been spinning my wheels, doing a really awesome burnout, and I'm about to reach some traction. I'm starting to feel that traction, and it's a really good feeling. It's a really good feeling to work your ass off and have it pay off. With all of that being said, if you made it to the end of this video, I really appreciate you. Thank you. If you're watching on YouTube, hit the subscribe button. If you've listened to me talk for almost an hour and a half, hit the subscribe button. If you would like to check out the other podcasts with other people that are coming up, I have 3 more podcasts next week that I'm filming. Every other Monday, the podcast will be coming out on this channel. Or you can click the link in the description and go to my main channel, which is just my first and last name. And there's going to be at least 1 video a week put out over there. A lot of photo, video content, also leaning into the improvement aspect of both photo and video, but also just improving yourself in general. So if you're interested in any of that, subscribe to the channels, like the videos. If you're listening on Spotify, any other platform, give the video a good review or a thumbs up or however all that works on those. And I really, really appreciate it. If you've watched this whole video, I appreciate you more than I can say. Time is the most valuable thing, and people choosing to click and spending some time with me, it means a lot. Especially right now, I'm just getting going. It's a really cool feeling to see other people and hopefully be able to help them. So thank you guys for listening. I appreciate you, and I'll see you in the next video.